Good morning and welcome to this episode of the Hidden World of Microorganisms. Today we are going to talk about raised bogs, which are a special kind of peatlands. In the last episode we talked about peatlands. Peatlands are ecosystems where the soil is regularly flooded. The presence of so much water makes it hard for organisms that are responsible for the decomposition of dead bodies and of waste of the living ones. It makes it hard for them to survive. This results in an accumulation of only partly decomposed organic matter. The soil containing a high proportion of this only partly decomposed organic matter is called peat, hence the name peatlands. The soil conditions become even harsher when, instead of being regularly flooded, the soil is constantly waterlogged. See, when the soil becomes wet from the rain or from a nearby river or pond or that is overflowing, underneath the surface, water will flow gently away. Soil water will gently flow towards a river, and from the river it will flow to a bigger river or a lake and eventually end up in the sea. But in some places the soil has an impermeable layer that doesn't let water go through it. So instead of flowing away, the water will just stay there. As we said earlier, when the soil is waterlogged, the process of decomposition is slowed down and organic matter accumulates. Many plants, fungi, animal, microorganisms will die because of the harsh condition of the environment, and they will add up on the organic matter that will be only partly decomposed. Eventually, over the course of many hundreds of years, the accumulation of organic matter will reach a point where it will rise above the surface of the soil surrounding the peatland, which is why these environments are called raised bogs. At this point, soil conditions become even harder to tolerate, because a kind of a paradox takes place. Deep down at the bottom of the raised bog, the soil is permanently waterlogged, as we said. But on the surface, it will rarely be waterlogged because it is above the surface of the surrounding soil. So water, because of gravity, will always flow towards the lower parts of the soil, of the ground. So the very surface of the raised bog will actually be quite often dry, and the nutrients of the soil will be slowly flushed away with water, leaving behind a soil that is very poor. On top of that, being only watered by rain, which is much poorer than the water in the soil, these environments are really poor in nutrients, which leaves us with an environment that is very waterlogged at the bottom, very dry at the top, and very poor in nutrients. The trapped water in these environments in warmer climate will just eventually evaporate, allowing decomposition to take place, which is why raised bogs are almost only found in cooler climates. On top of the simultaneous overabundance and lack of water, and the lack of nutrients, there is something else that adds to the difficulty of these environments. See, when the process of decomposition is only partially complete, the residues of organic matter that are left behind have characteristics that make the soil very acidic. And an acidic soil is not something that many organisms tolerate. Which leaves us with the question, who can tolerate these awful conditions that accumulate in a raised bog? You might be surprised to learn that the organism that is dominant in raised bog not only thrives in this hard condition, but it also participates in maintaining and exacerbate them, so as discourage a competition. And you might be even more surprised to learn that this dominant organism is a tiny moss plant called Sphagnum mosses. What makes them particularly suited to grow in such an environment is that they develop their capacity of growing vertically without end. They are virtually immortal. So while the bottom of the plant, the old part of the plant, is literally part of the peat already partly being decomposed, the top of the plant keeps growing vertically towards the top. They also have the capacity to accumulate an extraordinary amount of water in their tiny leaf-like structure, allowing them to survive for temporary lack of water. From the moment that the peatland surface starts rising above the surrounding soil level, the organic matter that composes the peat comes almost exclusively from the older part of the sphagnum mosses, that with time, with the weight of the surface layer of living organisms gets compacted. Scientists have calculated that the thickness of the peat increases in average of 1 millimeter a year. That means that underneath the living part of the raised bog, for every millimeter of peat that we go deeper, the peat will be 1 year older. Now, sphagnum mosses are the dominant organism in a raised bog, but is by far not the only one present. Another type of organism is particularly fond of raised bog, and it is even a smaller one. It's actually a microorganism and is called testate amoeba. Testate amoeba are a type of amoeba that protects themselves with a shell that is called a test. There are many types of testate amoeba and they are always found in wetlands, but they are particularly abundant and diverse in raised bogs. But that's a story for another time, which will be the subject of my next episode of The Hidden World of Microorganisms, but it is also the subject of my new book, which will be coming out soon in November, and it is called The Hidden World of Testate Amoeba. The book is already out for pre-order on my website, thehiddenworld.co.uk. This is it for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about raised bogs and that you will keep accompanying me in this journey of discovery and amazement in the hidden world of microorganisms. Bye now!